My story of how the Melanin Perspective came to be started before the brand was even a thought, really. Growing up, I was a pushover, a people pleaser, if you will. Because the circle I had around me wasn't equally yoked, I felt like I had to diminish my light in order to not make them uncomfortable. I didn't want to make them think that I thought I was a know-it-all or that I was better than them. At first, it just started as something I did around certain people, but as you can imagine, if you wear a facade long enough, it can consume you. I became a shell of myself. I hid behind myself. I became this emotionally detached empath, which sounds like an oxymoron, but really it just means that I wouldn't allow myself to be vulnerable, all while becoming everyone else's emotional dumpster. And I was fine with that for a while, until the summer before my junior year of high school when everything changed. Allow me to paint that picture for you. That summer was the beginning of a 4-year period that my family didn't have our own home. We had to move in with my grandmother, who unfortunately had just fallen victim to a scam that left the only home she'd ever known since moving to town back in '95, a half-remodeled mess. I was sharing a bed with my sister, who's 8 years my junior, for about 3 to 4 years at that point, and of course that continued at my grandmother's house. I ended up getting my first job, and I remember having to walk to work straight from school, and I remember having to put my bank account in the negative just to help out with bills. I ended up graduating and going to college, and then my parents, who'd been together for over 20 years at that point, separated in the midst of all this. My new bed became my other grandmother's living room couch when I would go home. Our struggles just seemed to be never ending, and I remember thinking to myself, for us to be going through all of this hell, life on the other side has to be full of abundance. I'd always known that I would be successful, but it was in that moment that I became hungry for it. I didn't know how, but I had to make it. That was when my demeanor really shifted. I became more vocal, more assertive. I really began deep diving into my self-development. Even tried my hand at network marketing. Learned a lot, but it wasn't for me. And then in the summer of 2018, God gave me the vision that I would have my own empire that catered to Black women. I didn't know what all that would entail, but I knew that it would be something huge, so I just decided to wait for another vision before moving prematurely. Fast forward to November of that year, I bought the first journal that I'd had in years. Fast forward 3 months after that, I listened to a podcast for the first time. My Elite Tales, My Taught You podcast episode with Khala Barfield on the way home from an event. I got back to my room, I opened that journal, and I just started writing. And this was the result. This is where TNP was born. I knew that as soon as I put that pen to paper and started jotting down all these seemingly random ideas, that this would be my ticket to that life of abundance that I was craving so much. I would get there using the very thing that I used to hide behind, myself. I would be vulnerable. I would talk about all the things that we're thinking but scared to verbalize. I would do it all. And that's not to say that the fear was non-existent, because it definitely was. You can't just unlearn the behavior that you've adopted for so long just like that. But my hunger for abundance was greater than my fear of vulnerability. This isn't some happy ending with a bow on top. My story's still being written. I still question my decisions sometimes. I still experience anxiety with my brand endeavors, but quitting has never been an option because I know I'm walking in my purpose. That and my hunger have been my saving grace, and I have my struggles to thank for that.